This is Trash Panda Publishing. Thank you for joining our podcast, where raccoons talk about books and publishing, and of course, anything related to raccoons. I'm your host, David James. I'm so glad that you joined us for episode 4. Today, we've got sort of 3 segments. One, I'm going to give an update on a new segment. Not really new, but we're going to expand it a little bit and then talk about who's going to be joining. We also have an update on emails with hustlers, and I actually finally got a hustler who's really taken the bait, and I feel bad. No, I don't feel bad. This is actually fun. And then we have a wonderful chapter that I'm going to read today from actually the host, if you will, of the Facebook group that we are in. And I don't say the name on the air because it is a private group, invitation only. And those of you who are in it know that it's very sacred, which is why I do not say the name, because we don't want the hustlers in there. But I always end with those chapters, so when I get to that, I will introduce the book and our wonderful host. Well, actually, no, let's do that now. So I'm going to be reading a chapter from Erika Szabo's book called Unbroken Curse. I believe that is what it's called. Let me double check that. Unbroken Curse, and it is available on many, many platforms here: Kindle, Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Everend, I've never heard of that one, Thalia, Fable, Velo, plus a bunch others I've never heard of. But if I'm going to put the link in the description of the podcast. It's also available in paperback on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and also an audiobook on Audible, Apple, and Amazon Audio. So this book has got, tons of distribution. But I'm going to read a chapter from that. I've read it earlier, and I hope that I get the pronunciation right of the characters in there. But anyways, we're going to get to that in a second. Update on sort of, for those of you who are new to the podcast, I've been having fun with the hustlers, and what I mean by that is people, I don't know where they're from, and it doesn't really matter, but they are people who send emails to me in Facebook or through my Shopify store, pretending to be customers or pretending to be fans or authors. And what they're really trying to do is sell stuff or scam you, or both. And I've decided to respond to them as a raccoon. And that persona is Crimson Jack Acorn III. And most of them just ignore it, but we've had a few email exchanges on episode 2 where I write short stories back to these individuals, hoping that someone would take the bait. And Crimson is got his heart set on another raccoon in Briar Woods, which is where they live. Her name is Ava Honeysuckle. And my dream here for this podcast is to have somebody, a woman, join me here on the podcast and actually be Ava Honeysuckle. Initially, we would sort of pre-record Ava's monologues the same way that I do Crimson's, and then I would just sort of insert them into the show here. And the idea is that I would send whoever I cast, if you will, for Ava, questions, prompts, but perhaps I even forward some of the hustlers' emails, and we have Ava write the responses, or I write them for whoever's going to play Ava. Ava records it, and then we drop it in here. Ideally, if whatever actress we retain here to be Ava, if I can get the technology correct, and if she is brave enough and have enough imprompt skills to join here, we might actually have a live broadcast where Crimson and Ava interact in an improv moment. Like, whose line is it anyway? But let me tell you a little bit about Ava. I have a character profile for her, and what I'm sharing here, those in the Facebook group have seen it. But I'm going to tell you a little bit. This is how I outline characters when I do a book. So this is the part about books of the podcast. I typically take a Word document and I write their name at the top. If I have an art or a picture of who the character is, I put that at the top right, and I do for her. I've also animated it, which is pretty cool, using the website Runway, which I've tried a lot of websites. ChatGPT does not animate at all, which is disappointing. You'd think because they kind of were first that they would have all the features. They do not. Runway is a great one for taking a still photo and animating it. And so Ava has been animated. What does she look like? Well, first of all, she's 18 years old and she is a raccoon, and she walks on two legs and is personified as more of a human with a raccoon face, but the body of a human being. But of course, she has a tail. What does she look like? Strikingly beautiful. Think glamour model like Marilyn Monroe, Madonna, that kind of vibe. She carries herself with confidence, always perfect posture, as if she's always ready for the photo shoot. She's refined, sleek, always high fashion. She would be, who is high fashion today? I don't really know who's setting the trends today, but she would basically be the Marilyn Monroe of this podcast, if you will. What's her personality like? She is overconfident to the point of inevitability. She expects to achieve everything. She doesn't wonder if she'll be exceptional. She only wonders when the rest of us are going to see it. She's very articulate. So she's not the ditzy blonde or the ditzy model. She's incredibly intelligent and has very sharp wit, which is going to make her a wonderful character on the show here. She also knows how to charm and how to tease and also how to ignore. Her greatest flaw, however, is vanity. She believes deeply in her own potential and thinks everybody should acknowledge it. So think of Madonna's Material Girl video from the 80s or early 90s, whenever that came out. And she is kind of vain in that respect. She is dismissive of those who do not share her ambition. She does not want to be held back. But she's also very proper. She's not going to sleep her way to the top either. From a relationship perspective, you do not hold her hand. There is no kissing her goodnight. There's definitely not going to be any intimacy before marriage. She is very fundamental. She believes that physical relationship is the greatest treasure a woman has, and it should be saved. And she is not going to give it away until she finds the one true love. And she is has a very high standard of who that would be. She doesn't even know who it would be. So she's going to achieve success on her merits, not by the Me Too movement thing. All right, what about her intellect and education? Incredibly smart, very curious, which all raccoons are curious if you listen to this podcast. She's well-read and she's probably one of the smartest raccoons in Briarwood, a book smart, if you will. She values learning and discipline and refinement. She prides herself on understanding, culture and performance and the wide world beyond the trees. And she fancies herself as a learned raccoon. She believes education is the proof of seriousness, and she often equates academic success with intelligence. So that's a blind spot for her, because if you are not achieving things academically, she assumes that you're dumb as a rock. And she doesn't value practical wisdom or emotional intelligence. So if you struggle in school or flat out reject formal schooling, like Crimson Jack Acorn III, she assumes that he is either lazy or dumb. Not, of course, necessarily the right decision or assessment of Crimson, but that's sort of her take. What's her ambition and inner conflict? She is drawn to the idea of fame, Broadway lights, applause, recognition. She wants to be famous. And she sees going to the Big Apple as validation and proof that she was right to believe she was meant to be there. Now, she hasn't gone there yet. She still lives in Briarwood. She's waiting for her chance, her call. But secretly, beneath the ambition is the uncomfortable truth that she actually likes Briarwoods. Its rhythms, its quiet moments, its familiarity. But at this point, she can't admit this to anybody, and she struggles to even admit it to herself, because for so long, she has created the image that she's way bigger than Briarwoods and that this somehow is beneath her. To admit that she likes it here is to conflict with the idea that she wants to go to the Big Apple, so she is unwilling to admit this. The story arc for her is that she will leave and go to the Big Apple, and leaving Briarwoods will cost her more emotionally than she can handle. And someday she will regret not appreciating Briarwoods. And who is there? And this tension that she has, or inside her, between who she wants to become and where she comes from will define her internal struggle. And this podcast goes along, assuming we can cast somebody as Ava, will slowly be revealed through her monologues, and maybe even the live interactions. Well, what's her relationship with Crimson? Well, this is interesting. At age 16, so she's 18 and Crimson is 19. At age 16, Ava actually did fall for Crimson Jack Acorn III. His recklessness intrigued her, the way he chased adventure. Now remember, she's incredibly disciplined, and he is not. So his recklessness she's curious, and that intrigued her. He challenged all of the norms that she took for granted and valued, and he looked at the world as if rules were optional. But she never confessed this crush she had, not even a hint of it. So Crimson, to this day, has no idea that she ever had a crush on him. But the crush did end quietly and decisively. Why? Because Crimson made it clear that he was never leaving Briarwoods, and he started skipping school altogether. And Ava realized that the differences between them were just insurmountable to her. In her eyes, they weren't rebels and romantics anymore. When she aged, got closer to 18, she knew she was going to the big city, and he's staying here. So there was no future for them, and she wasn't going to become emotionally attached at all. So to her, ambition means motion, and Crimson's commitment to stay here, in her mind, means surrender, or worse, laziness. And she's convinced that he just doesn't have a real future. She mistakes his quiet wisdom, again, for laziness, and his deep sense of grounding for small thinking. And she doesn't understand that Crimson does have a different type of wisdom and world understanding that she does not get. Now, she will admit, she notices that he's cute, let's put it that way. And occasionally, even against her will, that he can be funny. But she's made a strict rule for herself. Never let him see even the faintest sign that she thinks about him at all. Because if she lets on any hint of interest, she knows it will only encourage him. And encouragement is the last thing that she intends to give. How does she value and trust people? Well, she's a caring person, although she hides it behind her confidence. But it is incredibly hard to earn her trust. To Ava, words are worthless. Actions matter, and that's it. But you can't just do something once. It has to be repeated action over and over and over. Prove it out over time. And if you lie to her, you are done. There are no second chances with Ava. You break her trust, it cannot be repaired. So it's very, very difficult to deceive her or trick her with words. Do not lie to her. That's pretty much how you either win or fail in relationships with her. What's the core truth about who she is? Ava believes she's destined for greatness, and she might be. But the one thing she underestimates is how important who and what she's leaving behind really is to her. So that's Ava. And what I did right there, that's basically how I set up characters. I write all that kind of stuff out. So when I'm writing for them, it helps me sort of draw in when I'm doing dialogue and when I'm plotting out a story arc, because I need to make certain that the core truths of a character are mapped out correctly. And when I'm done with the story, I want to make certain that I've actually hit all these points. But I've posted this in the Facebook group so people can see how I do it. I'm not going to read. I wanted to read the script as Ava. Actually, you know what? I am. I'm gonna be Ava here because I want people to who want to be Ava to record what I'm about to record here and send me an MP3. If you would like to be Ava, my email address is headraccoon@trashpandapublishing.com. And you just basically record this little speech that I'm about to give here. And I'm going to pick who I think is the best Ava, and we'll communicate by email to see if we can, if it is really the right match. And maybe I don't find the Ava, or maybe I find 50 Avas. I don't know, but I'm hoping to find the right Ava. All right, here is Ava's monologue. Let me get into character, and I'm going to try to do a female voice. And the reason we need an Ava is because I am not great at female voices as much as I think I am. Here we go. I live in Briarwoods, although I never understood why anyone would want to stay here. any longer than necessary, and I'm leaving the second I get my break. My name is Ava Honeysuckle, and if you lived here longer than a season, you already know exactly who I am. Most raccoons in Briarwoods confuse getting older with becoming interesting. I never have. I'm 18 officially, although I figured out how to turn heads long before that. Every single male raccoon within a 2 days run from Briarwoods simply adores me. They try not to make it obvious. Well, some of them do. But there are plenty of others that cannot keep their tongues in their mouths or their paws to themselves, which makes it worse. The ones that I don't have to swat away, puff up, they joke too loudly, and suddenly find excuses to be wherever I am. No, I admit it, I lead them on, so they're not entirely to blame. I flirt, and sometimes it's not even on purpose. I'm beautiful. I'm sorry if that sounds boastful, but it's true, and they know it. So yes, I flirt because I can, and I tease because it's easy. And sometimes I push them just to see how far they'll go to impress me, and they always go far beyond crazy in their attempts. The power is ridiculous, and dare I admit, intoxicating and delicious even. And why should I pretend that I don't enjoy it? I take care of myself. I watch what I eat. I train and stretch. I keep my fur perfect, and I have impeccable posture. This body wasn't made for the wet leaves of Briarwood. No, I've developed this presence and poise for a stage, a real one on Broadway. Oh, the Big Apple, the lights, the big, beautiful, beautiful lights. They're so bright. I can already hear the music swell. I can feel the pause before the applause. I can see my name taller than the marquee itself. I was not destined to stay in Briarwoods. No, I was born to be a star on the stage. Oh, Crimson Jack Acorn III? Well, yes, fine, he's cute. I'm not blind. But he still moves this world like he's stuck in junior high, living for tonight and calling it a philosophy. He doesn't plan, he drifts, and wanting to be with me is not a plan. And being cute isn't ambition, and it certainly isn't a ticket out of Briarwoods. Now, I know Crimson Jack Acorn has been telling you that I ignore him, and he longs for me. Yes, both are true. But I won't let myself be distracted. I can't afford to. Broadway's calling. Well, that's the monologue, and I'm hoping that somebody reads it better than I do, because I will just hear Ava's voice in the recording. All right, let's move on to the next segment, which is the emails from hustlers, because we have a wonderful exchange that happened over Christmas. So let me get this loaded up. This is a guy named Ikamobong Dre. Actually, this guy might have emailed before. Eekpoo333@gmail.com. Now, he emailed. Actually, yeah, this is the guy who emailed a long time ago and didn't reply. He emailed on December 16th, and he wrote, "Hello, is there anyone I can chat with? I have a question about your store. Are you still selling on this website?" And this is the one who I did respond back by saying, I can't remember what I said, something like we're raccoons. It was one of those short answers. Well, he followed up, and he followed up on Christmas, because I figured he was never going to respond. This is what he says on Christmas. "Let me ask you, are you okay paying Spotify every month without making any sales from it? I'm only trying to help you so you don't keep losing money. If you're still interested in making sales with this Christmas season, with this Christmas, what is it with these people with the Christmas and this Christmas? First of all, it is already Christmas Day, Eekpoo, just saying. Please let me know so there's more than one of him, maybe he's got raccoons, so we can take action and stop the waste." Was he running for office? This is like a political campaign here. Let me just read that again. "If you're still interested in making sales with this Xmas season," he doesn't even spell Christmas correctly, it's just Xmas. like the X-Men. Please let me know so we can take action and stop this waste. Then I wrote, Christmas morning, we're raccoons. We live in the woods. We don't waste anything. Short and sweet. Then he replied back, am I speaking with the store owner? Okay, so he's a lively one. He's awake. And I wrote, well, define owner. No one truly owns this store. Well, I should put Crimson's voice on here. Well, define owner. No one truly owns this store. I'm trying really hard to own this one because Ava Honeysuckle expects success. And between us two, she has standards, high ones, movie star ones. And I figured owning a store might qualify as having my life together. Now, what do you think? Because I already tried bringing her a dead mouse as a treat, and shockingly, it did not impress her. And that raspberry incident went even worse. I'm still limping around, and I never even gave her the raspberries. I also told her I care, which she appreciated right up until she told me to stop looking at her tail. Also, I think it was probably not a success. Anyways, I've concluded that I need to demonstrate progress and something tangible, something respectable, something that says Crimson Jack Acorn III is a raccoon on the rise, and so he has a future, and because she wants someone with a future. Well, that's what I hear from her friends, anyways. A future. Well, I mean, so long as you wake up tomorrow, you have a future, right? Well, not according to her. Well, I said tomorrow is the future. If you're awake tomorrow, isn't that having a future? She doesn't quite agree with me. Well, so I'd like to own a store, and I probably need to commit a crime and steal one. Did I just say that out loud? All that said, unless you're selling emotional growth here, or dignity, or a foolproof way to impress a glamorous raccoon with impossibly high expectations, I'm probably all set. I appreciate you checking in, however. Ava would want me to be polite here. I'm a wild animal after all, and it's not easy. And then I hit send. He replied back like 4 minutes later, and he wrote, I agree with you. Eek poo, 333. Well, what part do you agree? Me being polite, or that I have my life together, or that waking up tomorrow is a future? I don't know what part, eek poo poo, you have agreed with, but you're certainly sitting at your computer. So I kept going. I wrote back 20 minutes later. Thanks for getting back to me. Let me see. I got to make certain I stay in voice here. Thanks for getting back to me. No, actually, sorry. This is him. He sent 2 emails. I should read these together. He sent, I agree with you. And then 20 minutes later, he sent this one, says, thanks for getting back to me. I am an assigned Spotify partner, a digital marketing expert with intense experience in e-commerce and online marketing. And I recently came across your store on a Shopify community, and your store was listed among underperforming stores with low sale performance. And I noticed great potential in your products to generate significant sales, which is why I'm reaching out. I work on a commission-based model. Once you start making sales, then you can pay for my services to build trust and long-term relationship. Should have been hyphenated long-term, but it's not. So he will not be in charge of the editing. You'll need to provide the ad budget, and we can start with a small amount to test the waters. With the right strategy, it's possible to scale your sales up to $2,000 weekly. Looking forward to your thoughts about this offer. Okay, well, he wants to communicate, and it's Christmas morning, and everyone's open presents, and I don't have anything to do, so you know me. Crimson had to write a response, and here's what I wrote. I'm really glad you sat down here because someone looks like they know what they're doing, and it feels like it's the right time for me to tell you a story that I've been carrying around all week. Let me tell you what Ava Honeysuckle did to me last Tuesday. I had just finished something I was generally proud of, which does not happen often enough to ignore, and I made the mistake of thinking that she might actually want to hear about it. I found her near the old fence, and I told her that I'd finally figured out how to open that new metal trash can, the kind with the double latch, the one no one else even tried. She listened politely, which should have been my first warning. She smiled and nodded, which said to me she was impressed, which felt promising right up until she asked what I planned to do after that, and I told her I really hadn't thought past solving the can itself, and because I was still enjoying the fact that I had solved it after all, and she paused and looked at me for a second and said that was exactly the problem. then she told me that she didn't want to be unkind, but she was looking for someone who thought in terms of next steps, not just small wins, because she's not planning on staying in Briarwoods forever. She talked about the Big Apple like it was already calling her name. And she talked about me like I was something she would outgrow. I tried to laugh it off. I told her that sometimes figuring out a hard thing at a time was progress, and she said that that was a nice attitude, but that only gets you so far. Before I could say anything else, she adjusted her tail, thanked me for sharing, and walked away like the conversation had been completely unhelpful. I stood there holding a half-eaten bagel and realized that I'd been missing everything she was saying to me. So anyways, that's how Ava's honeysuckle, I think, left my life last week. Now, you don't have to respond. By the way, I'm not looking for advice or solutions. I'm just needed someone to hear what I had carrying inside. I just needed someone to hear it out loud. And I hit send. Well, Eekpoo333 responded back. Let's see, how long did he take? About an hour. He said, I will grant you an advice and solution, but I charge for that. What did you do to her last Tuesday? And I'm thinking, is he going to charge me relationship advice? First of all, he's reading these things kind of. If he read that, he can tell that at least Crimson, opened a trash can, which was not enough to impress Ava. So he's clearly not contemplating, he's not really processing what I wrote, but he wants to charge me for relationship advice. So I wrote back, maybe 30 minutes, no, maybe, I guess it was an hour and a half later, I wrote, hey, I got to get back in Crimson's voice. I don't pay for relationship advice. That said, if you're offering it for free, I'm willing to listen very carefully, because if you have proven strategies for capturing the interest of an extremely attractive and highly motivated raccoon named Ava Honeysuckle, and I'm not joking, she's incredibly attractive. She's the kind of raccoon who will most certainly be starring in some sort of Broadway production by next fall. So if you know how to make a raccoon like that, look at me and think, that one has potential, then I'm all ears, big ones. But to be clear, I'm not currently seeking any ideas about ads or funnels or conversion rates or whatever else the raccoons allegedly do on this website. They mostly use my image to sell things, which, fair enough, I'm charming. They also have this adorable frog named Sticky and this very ditzy fairy named Escala Winter, who everyone insists no one's allowed to touch. It's a whole situation. But Ava's the point. So if your expertise extends into romance and ambition and impossible standards and how not to be politely dismissed near an old fence while holding a half-eaten bagel, but by all means, please advise. Otherwise, no hard feelings. I'm just a wild animal. Warm regards, Crimson Jack Acorn III. And I hit send. He replied back about, looks like 15 minutes later. And he wrote, how old is the raccoon and how old is Ava? Well, Eekpoo333, we've learned today that Crimson is 19 and Ava is 18. I have not replied to him yet because we need content for our next podcast. So I'm going to stop there, and we are now going to move on to the main part of our podcast today, which is the chapter reading. So it is my honor and privilege to read a chapter today from Erika, Szabo, who is the founder of the Facebook group that I am in, and I was so honored to be asked to be in it in the first place, and then asked later to be one of the co-administrators, and she was the one actually that prompted me to do this podcast. So thank you, Erika. It is my honor to read one of your chapters that you sent to me, or I think it's chapter 2 from the book Unbroken Curse. So first of all, let's go over Erika a little bit. She is a prolific writer who appears to have written like over 80 books, tons of books. Her bio, she lives in New York. When her daughter moved out of the family nest, she started writing. She writes magical realism, fantasy novels, as well as fun, educational, and bilingual books for children 2 to 14 that are about acceptance, friendship, family, moral values, such as accepting people with disabilities, dealing with bullies, and not judging others before getting to know them. she's also, looking at her website here, actually, she also does a lot of blogging and making videos and helping other authors get visibility, including me. She featured she featured me as an author in one of her monthly get to know authors. It was the month of December, and there's a bunch of us that she pushed out on her blog, which I believe she said almost has 1 million views, if I remember correctly. So thank you for that. And in January, she is also going to be having an event where she's invited us to submit a chapter of our book, those of us in the group, to push out on her blog. So we'll get a chance to have our chapter sent out to many, many, many people, and I'm very grateful for that. Today, we are going to read, or I'm going to read, chapter 2 of Unbroken Curse. So the intro to this is, and this is something she provided to me, Jaden and his archaeological group find a medicine woman's burial site from the 5th century. Strangely, Jaden also finds a crude leather book in his grandmother's secret room written in the year 426 by a shaman. His sister Sophia deciphers the ancient runes, and they discover a powerful curse cast 1,600 years ago has destroyed the lives of their ancestors for centuries. The curse will also ruin the lives of future generations if it remains unbroken. Dark memories of their childhood start to surface, and they're stunned to realize the similarities between the tragedies of the family described in the shaman's book and their families 1,600 years later. And they're stunned by the conclusion that Jaden is in danger due to the family curse. That's a pretty intriguing setup. Now, chapter 2. It starts with a quote, so I'm going to read the quote and then I'm going to read into the story. Archaeology is like a jigsaw puzzle, except that you can't cheat and look at the box, and not all the pieces are there. Stephen Dean. Jaden, a handsome young American archaeologist, worked in the third pit alone, oblivious to the excitement just a few yards away. Although Helen wanted everyone to concentrate on the 2 holes that they found the artifacts in, Jaden convinced her to let him try the abandoned pit again. He pulled a crumpled handkerchief from his dusty overall pocket to wipe the sweat off his forehead. Whew! It's already hotter in this hole than in a witch's oven, he mumbled under his breath, while he pulled a hairband off of his wrist and tied his shoulder-length auburn hair into a man bun. I really need a haircut, he thought. A few minutes later, his chisel made a nerve-fraying sound as it touched metal in the ground. Energized by the thrill of the potential discovery, he began the painstaking work of carefully scraping the packed dirt around the rusty handle of the ancient sword. Come on, beautiful, show me your glorious body, he whispered. As he changed position and knelt back, he spotted a snake wiggling toward him from a dark corner of the 10-foot-wide hole. Jeez, he yelled, and threw himself backward, not sure if the snake was poisonous or just an innocent garter snake that had fallen into the pit by accident. The moment his elbows hit the dirt and feet still up in the air, an arrow hit the exact spot he was kneeling on a second ago, with such force that the wide obsidian arrowhead nearly disappeared into the dirt with the shaft violently vibrating. What the hell, he cried, out in fright, and looked up. 6 feet up the mouth of the hole, he saw his sister staring down at him, holding a recurved bow. She let out a furious scream and disappeared. Sophia! What did you do? How did you get here? Wait, he yelled, scrambled to get up the stepladder as fast as he could. Sophie, wait! He shouted as he climbed out of the hole. A stout security guard woke to the high-pitched scream and jumped to his feet, feeling confused and stunned. Hey, where are you going? What are you doing there? He yelled as the young girl ran from the pit. She glared at the guard with a murderous expression on her face. Clenching her fists, she growled and ran towards the path between the thick bushes and soon disappeared from sight. The guard grunted and stomped after her as fast as his heavy body could move. Jaden, finally out of the hole, looked around frantically, but he didn't see his sister anywhere. His teammates climbed out of the larger pit, ran toward him, and looked at him questioningly. What happened? One of them asked. What's going on? The others shouted. A woman just tried to kill me. She fired an arrow into my pit, Jaden said, running toward the narrow path. He couldn't tell from their suspicions without proof about the woman being his sister. His teammates followed. They saw a small red car speeding down the dirt road and disappearing behind the bushes at the curve. Jaden fished his keys from his pocket and jumped into his beat-up Jeep. "Coming with ya!" Rowan yelled and stuffed his large behind into the passenger seat. "When did the woman get here?" Jaden questioned the guard. I was in the tent, putting away tools when I heard the scream, and by the time I got out of the tent, she was running towards the cars. I chased after her, but she was running so..." His eyes shifted from Jaden to the side mirror as he wiped perspiration off of his forehead. "Where's your partner?" He drove to town to pick up breakfast." "Oh, right," Jaden shook his head. "But you shouldn't have gone into the tent when everyone was in the holes." I'm sorry, I apologize," the guard mumbled, feeling relieved that he hadn't been seen sleeping on the job. "I couldn't go after her because my partner gave me a ride this morning and I don't have a car," he added as excuse. The Jeep accelerated as Jaden pressed the gas pedal. What the hell is going on? Did my sister just try to kill me? How did she get here? She's supposed to be in New York. Frantic thoughts chased each other in his mind while driving downhill like a madman. "Did you see her firing the arrow into the hole?" he asked the guard. "No," the guard hesitated, giving Jaden a sideways glance. "As I said, I was in the tent, but she carried a bow and had a leather quiver on her back." Rowan speculated, holding on to dear life. His body was violently shaking by the speeding Jeep on the bumpy dirt road. "Man, you drive like the devil. Slow down." Jaden ignored the guard's protests and asked, "Did you see anyone else?" "There was no one else." The guard braced himself, holding onto the dashboard. Suddenly, the Jeep jerked to the side, and it took all Jaden's strength to hold onto the steering wheel. He stepped on the brake, slogging between trees and bushes for a minute. Finally, the Jeep stopped, crashing into a tree. "Crap!" he shouted, stepping out of the driver's seat and inspecting the blown tire and the crushed front. He pulled his phone from his back pocket and called Helen. "I ran off the road, and I'm calling a tow truck. Can you send someone to take us back to the site?" Helen sent one of the students to pick them up, and while they waited, Jaden called the towing company to take his Jeep to the repair shop. "I hope they fix it," he muttered. No worries, Joe at the shop can fix anything," the guard said with a half smile on his round face. As soon as they got back to the dig site, Jaden spotted Helen standing by the largest pit. She called out, "Are you okay?" Jaden nodded, walking to Helen. He stood at the mouth of the hole and looked down, and what he saw made him forget the attempt on his life in his crashed car. Scanning the half-unearthed skeletons of a horse and a human, he stared at the smiling woman, feeling ecstatic. He shouted, "Helen, I can't believe it. You found a medicine woman." "Yes," Helen replied, smiling at the young man. "Isn't it exciting? Let's go down and take a closer look." Both standing at the bottom of the pit, Helen called over to Jaden, "Come, look at the skull. Judging by her teeth, she must have been around 40 when she was buried in full regalia. And by her hand," Helen pointed at the bones, "look at the delicate carved falcon in her ring. That looks like it was made of jade." Jaden took a sharp breath and bent down, staring at the skeleton's finger. Deep emotions constricting his throat, he whispered, "Helen, I need to talk to you alone." "Okay," Helen said, looking surprised. "Hey, people," she called out. "All of you go up and take a break." The students looked surprised, but complied and climbed up the stepladder, one by one. "Helen, this is my ancestor," Jaden whispered, turning his head and looking into Helen's eyes. "What? You mean in general, like an ancestor of the Huns?" "No," Jaden sighed, straightening up. "I mean my ancestor. The turtle bird with the wide-open wings, holding a sword in its talons, has been my family's insignia since the 4th century. My ancestors were the leaders of the roaring falcon clan for generations. Look!" He extended his hand left and showed his gold signet ring to the astonished woman. Helen stared at him in disbelief, opened her mouth to speak, but couldn't make a sound. After clearing her throat, she finally managed, "Unfreaking believable. What are the odds of that happening? You joined my dig as a guest archaeologist from New York, and now you're finding your ancestor? I can't believe this." She shook her head, glanced at the woman's skull, and blurted out, "You're the lucky charm of this group. And if we get even luckier, maybe we could have a DNA sample done, DNA analysis done. This could be the find of the century." Jaden's head was swimming with thoughts and questions. His heart was heavy with mixed emotions. He remembered to tell his boss about his find. Helen, I just started unearthing a sword when all this happened. Helen looked up at him, shaking her head, and replied with a hint of irritation in her voice. Yeah, okay, I'll look at it later. Now this pit is priority. Get your tools and join me, she instructed. Jaden nodded and started climbing up the stepladder. Heading toward the pit with the buried sword, he recalled the young woman's face when she fired the arrow at him. Impossible, he mumbled. Why would she? How could she? No way, this crazy person just looked like her. Shaking his head, he pulled his phone from his back pocket and dialed Sophie's number. And that is where chapter 2 ends. And Erika, that is great. I wonder, well, first of all, is it Sophie or not? And who is the Falcons? I mean, this makes me think of Indiana Jones. And it definitely has the pacing of sort of an action. I just sense action movie here, and I can't get Indiana Jones out of my head. But yet, there's multi-generational things here, and the idea of curses. I'm gonna have to read the book. So I would suggest, well, first of all, Erika's written a ton of books. I would definitely suggest checking out the links I'm going to put in the podcast description here. And I think we're certainly way over on time here. This is a 40-minute podcast, almost double what I normally do. So I'm going to wind down here and say Merry Christmas. I guess we're past Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And I'm going to be headed to Miami tomorrow. I might do a podcast from down there. And I just want to thank you for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for listening to Trash Panda Publishing Podcasts. And like all raccoons, stay curious.